Evening everyone, it's time for part 2 of the retro series, and as you can see behind me, now that the Mac's been set up, there's some more stuff around it. As I've been kind of building this little system, which may not stay in place for very long, I've been overcoming some obstacles and finding workarounds for things. It's like being 15 years old again, because this is almost exactly how I used to do things when I was 14, 15, except that some of the gear's a little more fancy. Some of it isn't. Some of this is the original equipment that I would have used when I was 15 years old. It's been kept in sheds and attics and things. So we're going to be tracking bass today, and I'm actually going to be tracking the bass for a song that is going on an album for a band formerly of the Piston Funk Machine fame. However, that band currently is on hiatus, so the same members are doing something else. Anyway, this may be a knackered old Mac, but the bass part that I'm about to track is quite a serious part. I need to get this done with a decent sound. So the first piece of equipment I'm using is a Focusrite Liquid Sapphire 56. Now I had to do some digging around on the internet, but I found, I don't know if you can see this very well on the screen, I found a version of the Sapphire mix control. I'll zoom in to show you that in a couple of minutes. But that means that I can route the sound coming out from any of the inputs on this device to anywhere on any of the outputs, which is great because that means I can get zero latency loopback on any system. So even the oldest piece of crap where the latency is terrible, in this case we're at 1024 samples, which, if you know anything about trying to track audio in real time, that's pretty much unacceptable. Just move these keys out of my pocket. But that's okay because we're not going to be doing any live monitoring, and that's what this Vox amp's for. This is a modelling amp. It's one of their Valvetronics. It's just this actually belongs to my my other half, Mickey. So I've borrowed this for the duration of the video. So if I had a DI box, this is what I would normally do. Is I would go from this bass into a DI box and then into one of the microphone channels on the Sapphire 56. Just a note, if you're going to try something like this yourself, you don't need the 56. Focusrite also do the Sapphire Pro 40, they do 20 somethings, 26 I think, and they all work equally well. The only reason that I needed the 56 when we built the recording studio several years ago is I needed a high track count, and this has got ADAT ports so it can do 24 in and out. However, firewire isn't widely supported anymore on ultra modern hardware, so eventually this thing made its way out of rotation and now sits in a corner in the studio, so I thought I'd make use of it for the purposes of this video. So instead of a DI box, because I don't have one around, let's say I'm a 15-year-old starter and I've not got anything apart from an interface and, say, an old laptop or Mac. So this is how I do it. So I'm routing through one of the instrument inputs on the Liquid Sapphire, and then I've sent through mix control that input back out through another output on the back into the amp. So I get some sound from the amp, which I'm using as a bass amp. It's a modelling amp, so it has kind of bass tones, and I'm not turning up very loud, so I'm not going to damage the speaker. This is just a means of playing it back. Also, the only speakers I could find were these horrible old PC speakers, which I've had, again, since I was 13 or 14. These awful kind of beige things that maybe used to be white. I don't know if you can see them, but there's one of them. These old things, they sound awful. But that's not the point of this. The point here is that most of the track has already been recorded and has been sent to me. I attempted to play back the multi-track in Reaper, actually with no effects on at all, but this particular Mac, the drive is so slow it wouldn't play back all the tracks at once, and that's only about 20 tracks, it just wouldn't play them. So what I've done is I've rendered down what we have so far into a bounced stereo audio, and I'm going to record the bass onto a second track. And this is something that guys do a lot actually. If you're doing kind of online session playing, you don't need an amazing rig, you just need something that can play back a stereo track and record onto a second separate track. That really is all you need, because I can do multiple takes on this and choose which take I want. So I'm going to cut the camera now so that you can see the screen a lot better, and you probably won't see a lot of my bass playing, but hopefully you can believe it. It's me, honest. Here we go, time to cut. All right, we're back. So let's quickly flick to the Sapphire mix control. As you can see, this doesn't look any different from if you've used a Focusrite Sapphire from 2016. I think they stopped making them last year. But this is no different to any other copy of Sapphire mix control, because all it's doing, it's very pretty, yes, but what it's actually doing is sending control signals out to the Liquid Sapphire, and it's actually doing very little work on its own. So the way I have it set, that's going to need some syncing, that's going to be irritating. The way I have it set is, oh man, I'm going to have to put that on the floor, stupid audio recorder. So mix 1 is kind of my master mix. So whatever's coming out of the DAW is coming out and is being joined. Actually, no, that's pretty much it. Whatever comes out the DAW comes out of the stereo speakers. But also, whatever comes out of the bass track, when that gets played back, won't come out of the speakers. That will come out of the amp. Now, if you had a reamp box, you could do things this way around. It's a little pointless most of the time. But in this way, I get to hear the track with the bass played back without these really bad speakers kind of crumbling under the weight. That's the only real reason that I've done that. So let's play back a bit of the track and just listen to it. So we've got sound, and the DI track on here is only going to record the completely raw signal and is not going to get any of this amp processing on it. So let's just hit play. What do we get? So it's okay, so let's just have a look. I put an effect on here. Now if I hit monitor for a second on the bass track, the effect, as it were, is retune, which is actually just a guitar tuner. So if I play myself a couple of harmonics, I can check my tuning. Don't need an external one. It's another piece of money I've just saved. So everyone spends 10, 15, 20 pounds on a half decent clip-on tuner. If you don't have the spare money, you don't have to do that, but you do have to be in tune. Don't forget that. So this is going to go G. Right, so let's hit record. We have a nice drum intro. Okay, so there's my first part. If I hit play and play that back, I should get sounds good to me. So now I've got to let's play back the verse. Right, so the last one's got, and 1 and 3 have got a step down. So as long as I remember those, let's see how far we get. Undo, record again. Okay, so let's just make sure they edit together okay by zooming in. If you've ever seen any of my iPad series, you'll have seen me do this before on a portable device, which completely honestly is about 10 times faster than this. Except that you'd have to go out and get yourself an iPad, and if you don't have one, this kind of retro technique still works. I mean, it's slow, it's clunky, it's awful, but it works. Come on, stop. Let's just have a look. I've not changed any of the settings on here at all. Options. Do not display anti-take lanes because it's stupid. Ding 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 ding. There we go. I'll put an extra note in there because I'm an idiot. So let's cut that out. And the fact that I can actually do clean edits. Okay, so let's just hit save and then repeat this process until the song is finished. Let's just do another take of that whole thing. When the Mac decides to respond, which may be the 7th of never. There we go. Save. Record again. Here we go. Derp. Wrong note, so what is wrong with me today? Okay, let's have a listen to how the next bit goes. Right, so it's 4-1-4-1. Dun, king, dun. There we go. Okay, so the last few notes are just bam. Need a bit more run up than that. Okay, not convinced by that midsection, so let's have a look at that. But this should be snap, turn off, hate snap. Snap makes my edits bad. Okay, so by the way, if you know any old keyboard players, they used to do things a very similar way to this, where instead of playing through the amp, they'd actually be playing keyboards back. I'm sure I can slip that in gently. And we have one bass part for one song. Well, hey. All I have to do now is hit save, stick this on a USB drive, and send that over to the mixing engineer, who in this case happens to be me. But it's going to be mixed on a much more powerful system with decent monitoring and such. But if it wasn't, at this point, I would make sure the track was finished and properly edited, which I'm going to dive in and do after this and do that off camera, because it's not the most entertaining thing in the world, cutting out silences and making sure that starts and stops are in the right place. But it's got to be done. So I would, if I was sending this to someone else who wasn't working in Reaper, render as a wave 24-bit PCM, render stems, and make sure the bass track was selected and that the time selection was right, and then name it appropriately, render it, and email. And that can be how to make one simple way of doing session work, no matter how old your machine. It really, just gonna unplug this bass. There's no reason why your equipment should be an excuse, as long as the converters in your interface are decent. I mean, like Focusrite Sapphire, any of them, or any of the new second generation Scarletts, you don't need a high track count unless you're recording things like drum kits. And you don't need the latest computer, you don't need the latest laptop or gaming machine. Video cards make no difference. And anything that's kind of a Core i5 first generation and above, as long as you're not running like 10 virtual amps, will do what you need it to do. Even if you have to start freezing tracks and that kind of thing. If you get to the point where you're searching what is freezing a track and why would I need to do that, and then kind of hitting track limits, then maybe you should think about a computer upgrade. But until that point, don't waste your money. Just spend more time learning about practice principles of recording, because learning how to record properly is far more important than what equipment you have. I mean, I've done this with a modeling amp, which I'm now going to take the raw bass track to a professional studio, and I'm going to reamp it through an SVT 8x10 fridge monster. And you could do that from anywhere in the world with a well set up bass or guitar with fresh strings into a single channel good interface, and a half decent broadband connection to email a WAV file over, anything's possible now, and you don't need these crazy good systems until you get to the level of being a studio. So I hope that's been illuminating for you. I'll probably do some more in the retro series, but I'll have to have a dig through our old technology and see what I can find. In the meantime, I'm Adam Steele for the Hot Pulse Studios. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you found this amusing or interesting in any way. Sorry to have taken half an hour of your life away as well. Thanks for watching.